Colorado fans can officially rest about Deion Sanders leaving for the NFL, and I'll tell you why.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet for just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. We're also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you guys for making me your first listen of the day. Like I said, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. That way you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage. Mind my new background. I'm obviously not at the normal studio. You know, I'm in Frisco, Texas, which is a little bit a ways away, but I've been attending the East-West Shrine Bowl practices. Went to one today. Got to see LeJohntay Wester, Shedeur Sanders, Cameron Craig, Will Shepard. Those guys all partake, but that's not the big news. The big news is Coach Prime's not going anywhere. Right. I think there's a lot of worries, a lot of concerns that Jerry Jones may be the craziest son of a gun in sports and hire Deion Sanders. Right. I think, and it wouldn't be crazy. Right. Deion Sanders has proven that he could assemble a staff around him. He's proven that he could put the right people in the right places and win games. He's also one of the biggest names in football history. So Jerry Jones, who, as we know, is prone to loving the camera on him. Right. Jerry loves him. Jerry loves himself. You know what I mean? Like, he loves being the center of attention. I don't know if that phrase made any sense, but that's what I mean. Jerry loves to be the center of attention, and having Deion Sanders would make the Cowboys the biggest story in sports, maybe in all of sports, not just American sports. And so the Dallas Cowboys hired Brian Schottenheimer as their head coach. And some of you may be going, oh my gosh, Kevin, why are we still talking about this? Why are you bringing this up? It was never going to happen. Well, Diana Rossini, who's with The Athletic, she went on the Ryan Russillo podcast, which is a podcast I listen to very frequently. I love his work, and I love her work specifically because she's honest. And I think sometimes when it comes to reporters, there's like this the barrier between honesty and them holding back because they don't want to, I won't say hurt people's feelings, but they have working relationships, right? And we've talked about this with Coach Prime, where it's like, if you want to have a working relationship with Coach Prime, you can't be bashing him. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do your job, but you can't go write a column and be like, Coach Prime is a shyster or whatever he was called by that one guy, where it's like, okay, you can't do that because then he's not going to like you, right? But you also have to do your job. So if Coach Prime is doing well, obviously you have to report on it. If he's doing poorly, you have to report on it. But Diana Rossini, and I'm not saying that she doesn't like value those relationships, but she's honest about the process, and I like that about her. And so she talked about the Dallas Cowboys head coaching search, and while a lot of people were kind of brushing off the Deion Sanders as a Colorado thing, and I myself said it was probably more of a leverage move, which I still think in a way it was, right? I think Deion Sanders showed Colorado, like, hey, if you don't give me the support I need or the financial boost that the program needs, like, I will consider leaving. And whether or not he actually planned on leaving, it doesn't really matter, right? He showed that it is a possibility. He showed that there is opportunities out there elsewhere for him in the NFL if he wants it, and that would give him another chance to coach his sons. But Diana Rossini revealed that Jerry Jones wanted Deion Sanders more than people realized, and she actually said that it was his son or sons. I think it was sons. At least one son for sure, Stephen Jones and company. I don't know if there's another one that I could think of, but she said that it was other people, we'll just say, that did not want Deion Sanders in Dallas. And so I don't think people realize how, I don't want to say it came close, but I think there was more water to it than people realized. I think there was a lot more interest than people realized. I think there was a lot more possibility that it could happen. And so had that happened, it would have been detrimental to Colorado. But if you're a Colorado fan, you have to love this, right? You just basically, I don't say outbid because they obviously didn't need anyone to interview for the role, but you basically kept Coach Prime from going to the Dallas Cowboys, which, like I keep saying, is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, franchises in sports, at least in American sports. It's probably one of the more popular ones. And Deion Sanders, he played there. He won a Super Bowl there. He lived in Texas for most of I know his kids were raised in Texas and they played high school football there, and they still think he has a property there, properties. So it's a big deal, right? It was a chance to go to a home for him. Not he's from Fort Myers, Florida, but it was a chance for him to go home. And he decided to stay in Boulder. So if you're Colorado, I mean, you're one step closer to making sure that Coach Prime is staying in Boulder, right? And I think the only way to make sure he stays in Boulder for the long term is to give him the financial support he wants. And I think people are confusing this with like, oh, we want to, I'm saying that Deion Sanders wants to be paid the highest paid coach in college football. I don't think he cares what his salary is. I think he cares about the financial investment, the support, and just overall energy around the program, right? I think he wants the athletic director and brass of Colorado to invest more into facilities, right? Joel Klatt said that. I think and Joel Klatt said that he also wants a bigger salary pool for his assistants, right? He wants more investment into the football program, and that's not shocking, right? We just saw that Ohio State spent $20 million on that roster to win the title. And I think I don't know if it was as an athletic department, but they were down 30 something million, right? It was a deficit this past year. And obviously they'll get some of that money back by winning, but you have to go all in to build a championship caliber roster, right? Ohio State used $20 million to build a roster. They got Quinshon Judkins, they got Will Howard, they got Caleb Downs from Alabama last year, and Jeremiah Smith, keeping him happy, keeping him in town, not cheap. Carnell Tate, who was the third wide receiver on the team in terms of receiving yards and all that, and the third option, he had offers from Texas and Oregon, and like all these programs were coming after them. So if you want to be one of the best teams in college football, you have to spend like one of the best teams in college football. And I don't think people are realizing that, and I don't think Colorado's there yet, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. And so Coach Prime is trying to usher that new era of spending, that new era of Colorado football in, and I think he just by showing he was at least interested or showing there's a possibility, whatever you want to go label it as, I think he shows Colorado that, hey, I'm not going to just sit here and continue to bring in all this money and attention for the program and not be supported financially. Like, that's not going to happen. And I mean, I commend him for that, right? You need the financial support, right? Everyone's goal, whether it's Colorado to Old Dominion to Texas to whoever, Fresno State, everyone's goal is to compete for a title. Not everyone can compete for a title, but Colorado is technically in a position where they could jump into that title contention realm, but they have to invest a lot more money. Like, they are not there yet. They have to invest a lot more. So it'll be really interesting to see where see how this plays out. Do they give him the extension? Do they give him a larger pool? We'll find out. There's a board of regents meeting coming up, or I think it might have passed already. There was a board of regents meeting, and I'm sure a lot of that was discussed. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about my conversation with LeJohntay Wester, my conversation with Bucky Brooks. We're going to be talking all things Colorado at the Shrine Bowl. Had a blast. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to get in on the Super Bowl action, FanDuel is the place to do it, because obviously Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's one game, two teams, and there's endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you could place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Just bet $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 59. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, so make sure to like, subscribe, follow. Make me your first listen. Share this with a friend. Grow the community, because we obviously have a lot of fun things to cover as the time goes on. Let's just talk about the Shrine Bowl. So if you guys aren't familiar, it is one of the premier college all-star games, and it's one of those things where you have to really appreciate, because this is my first time at a college all-star game. I've been to NFL Combine, or not the Combine, NFL Pro Days. I've been to spring games, bowl games, NFC Championship games. The Shrine Bowl is interesting, right? And I think this goes for the same thing with the Senior Bowl in Mobile. It's basically like a glorified practice. I mean, it is a glorified practice. It's an all-star game. None of these guys really know each other. Obviously, there's a handful of guys that are on the same team in college, or they played with each other growing up. But it's not a normal team practice, right? All these guys are playing, for the most part, are playing with new guys for the first time. They're playing in front of scouts, GMs. There's guys from the NFL. There's guys from the UFL. There's guys from the CFL there today. And I just think that it's a huge opportunity for guys who have a chance to improve the draft stock. Now, Bucky Brooks said something that was interesting to me, that a thing like the Shrine Bowl, people have grades on them, right? And the Shrine Bowl is more so to solidify that grade, right? You're more likely than not going to go into the Shrine Bowl as like a projected 4th round pick and become a 1st round pick. But that doesn't mean you can't help yourself make some money. And I think LeJontay Wester, wide receiver, Colorado, I think he's a guy that's made himself some money this week. Him and Will Shepard for sure. Will Shepard, and I kid you not, Will Shepard just is a behemoth. He's ginormous. He's 6'2", looks every bit of 205. He looks physically larger and stronger than everyone he's matched up against. I've been pleasantly surprised. He had the great 100 catch, I think it was yesterday, and Will Shepard just looks like a dude. And I think he's shown a jump ball ability. If you guys watch the East West Shrine Bowl, which is on Thursday, you're going to see a lot of jump balls, I think, right? I think especially, unfortunately for Colorado's, all the Colorado guys, the receivers, they're all on the same team. They're on the West team. And the West quarterback situation, I think they got the short end of the stick for sure. I like the East quarterbacks a lot more. They have Kyle McCord, who I think is probably, I don't know if, about maybe all players, honestly, has probably had himself the best week so far. They have him, they have Cam Miller, and then they have Peyton Thorne from Auburn, who I'm not really high on, but I'm really high on Cam Miller and Kyle McCord, whereas the West team, which is the team that the Colorado Buffaloes are on, they have they have Brady Cook, from Missouri. They have Ethan Garbers from UCLA, and then Max Brosmer from Minnesota, who he's very vocal. I like Max Brosmer. But all this to say is, I think the Colorado guys have each made themselves some money. And I think LeJontay Wester has shown, because there's been some injuries out here, he's kind of shown that he could be versatile, right? They've asked him to do a little bit of everything. He's got some sure hands. He scored a touchdown today in one of the drills, and he's always open. Whether or not these quarterbacks are going to get him the ball, I don't know, but he's returned punts, kicks. Now, the problem is at these practices at the North Texas, because this is where the Shrine Bowl practices is at. It's at North Texas University, or the University of North Texas, which is in Denton. They have an indoor facility, which, I mean, 99% of teams do, but the ceilings are really low, so there's been no kicking. They've been using a jug machine and firing off kicks and punts. And so we haven't really seen LeJontay get to use his speed and stuff, but he has shown out. I think he stands out, even though he's 5'10", which I think that might be generous. I interviewed him, and I think I'm 5'7", maybe on a good day, and he wasn't much taller than me. So I would say he's probably around that 5'8", 5'9", or probably 5'9" range. But he is a guy who, even though he's small in size, he stands out, right? He's fast. He's always open. He's making big plays. He's sure-handed. And that's what we saw at Colorado. So I really enjoyed getting to talk to him. Nicest guy. I think he's probably one of the kindest people I've ever interviewed. He kind of just treats you like you're his, like a friend, if you will. Like, he was just super friendly. He greeted me and thanked me after. Like, it was a cool guy. And I'm really hopeful that he does well the rest of the week. And I think it's one of those things where if I'm an NFL GM, I look at a guy like LeJontay Wester. I don't know if he'll be in my rotation immediately, but I do think that he has potential to sort of carve out a major role for himself with an NFL team, right? We see it all the time that there's undersized guys that they're just lightning in a bottle. And I think that's LeJontay. And Will Shepard, another guy. Didn't get a chance to talk to him, but he is a guy who, like I said, physically stands out. He's huge, sure-handed. They like to throw up. They were throwing up jump balls all day. Not a lot of them were coming down with catches, but honestly, the throws were, let's just say, there was more media members getting tackled on the sidelines than there were guys connecting with these jump balls. But either way, really, really strong week for these two. They're also, and I kind of like this about the Shrine Bowl. Obviously, all these guys were the best or one of the best players from their team in college, but they're also all trying to carve out a role in the NFL. So a lot of these guys have played on some special teams. We saw Cameron Simon Craig, Shedeur Sanders. They've done some special team stuff on punt return, kick return, whatever it is, or punt coverage. And it's just a really interesting way. It's interesting to see the process, right? We know these guys get drafted. It's very rare that you get to see the behind the scenes of it all, where it's like, okay, all these guys, for the first time in their life, really, because obviously they were all, for the most part, heavily recruited, or at least they had opportunities. Not everyone was heavily recruited, but where they produce in high school, they're the top dog. In college, they're the top dog. Well, right now is a huge job interview. And you have to really, really show out because there's a lot of guys there. To be honest, I don't know if all the scouts are like fully paying attention. They're kind of just chilling, walking around, talking to people. It's a very like large networking thing, and you have to impress. Like I think, and I was joking with Jake from DNVR. He was there, and I talked to him for a while. We were sitting over there talking, and all of a sudden we hear a commotion. Well, Oregon wide receiver Trayshawn Holden slapped someone in the face. He slapped the guy had a helmet on, but it was one of those things where it's like this is a giant job interview, and every little thing you do is under the microscope. So you need to be communicating. You need to be hustling. You need to be willing to learn. You need to be able to take coaching, right? Because you're getting coached. Sorry, my head is itchy. You're getting coached by all these NFL coaches, right? There's a Denver Broncos guy working with the defensive backs. There was a Raiders coach working with the special teams. There was a Jaguars coach calling the offense for the West as well. So everyone is watching you, and I think the Colorado guys have done a really nice job of standing out. I think it was DNVR that pointed it out. Cameron Simon Craig he had the green dot on the back of his helmet, which means the coaches were communicating through him, which I think is a cool sort of thing. And it's just one of those things where if you are a guy trying to make it to the NFL, this is a prime opportunity for you to make a name for yourself. And I think LeJontay West or Will Shepherd have done that. I hope they have a big game. Like I said, I don't love the quarterbacks on their team, but at the end of the day, there's other ways to make an impact. So we'll just have to wait and see. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about the one thing that I took away from Bucky Brooks's conversation, or my conversation with him about Shedeur Sanders and the NFL draft. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by Intuit TurboTax. This is a message from sponsor Intuit. TurboTax Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, worrying, wondering, and some more. Now Texas is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives you your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guarantee. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. This is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live, full service, real-time updates, only on iOS mobile. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys from tuning in and making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, so that way you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage. I have some content rolling out from the Shrine Bowl. Got interviews with Bucky Brooks, LeJontay West were the two people I talked to today. Hoping to talk to some more as the week progresses. I wanted to talk about my conversation with Bucky Brooks, and you can go check it out in my shorts and on X as well, which is at Locked On Buffs. I asked him about Shedeur Sanders because I feel like that's the one thing everyone wants to know. It's like, what about Shedeur? Is he going to go number one? Is he going to go number 2, 3? How do him and Cam Ward fit? Travis Hunter's in that mix as well. And it was very simple yet profound, I feel like. And I could just be making a big deal out of nothing, but he was like, it's about fit, right? It doesn't matter. Like if he's talented, he could go one, but it's about fit. And so does Shedeur Sanders fit with the Tennessee Titans? Does he fit with the Las Vegas Raiders or the Cleveland Browns or whoever's going to be in the mix for a quarterback? And honestly, it is all dependent on his fit. And so I think everything I've heard from the people today that I talked to and what I've read about people's reports is Shedeur Sanders has done well, right? People, which made me laugh, that ESPN reported that he did it well. They liked his confidence. And it's like, you don't think that we didn't know Shedeur's confident, right? So Shedeur Sanders has a big a chance as anybody to solidify himself as a top pick, right? I think it's obvious he's going to go in the top 5, we'll call it, or at least it feels obvious. He doesn't have much to gain from an event like this outside of really allowing teams to get a feel for him. And I think he's done that. I didn't see him there today, but I think he's done that well. I think he's made it so, I guess, he's made it so he could put himself in a position to possibly communicate with teams who may have been hesitant. Like I said, I did an episode yesterday that didn't air because my audio was cut. But I think people want to know about Shedeur Sanders, right? There's a lot of questions about him, not about his play, but about him as a person. I don't think it's because he's a bad person. I think teams just want to know about him because he's sort of been in this bubble his whole life where his dad's been his coach. Everything's been built around him, right? And I mean, obviously, if you're drafted top 5 overall, your team will be built around you. But there's just so many questions about, like, who is he as a person, right? Is he nice? Does he like to lead the team this way? Does he like to lead the team that way? Does he talk to coaches? Does he call out coaches? Like, what is his, I guess, mentality and just overall vibe, if you will? And so I really thought that was interesting from Bucky Brooks, and you guys go check that out on my shorts, the interview where I talked to him. It's just one of those things where if you or someone are looking to truly dive into this draft class, I think when it comes to quarterbacks at the top of the draft, there's only 2, right? I think there's a lot of rumors about Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe sneaking in the first round. They might, right? But there's 2 where it's like they're the most proven-ish. And so you have to really understand or put yourself in a position of an NFL GM. It's like, what do I know about this guy? What do I like about him? What is his flaw? Because these guys are, at the end of the day, and this is like the dirty side of the business, these guys are all investments, right? These guys are all, like, all these NFL teams want to get an ROI. They want to get a return on investment. And so the best way to do that is to learn as much as possible about your guys, and hopefully it works out. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs, making your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you do podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Got a lot of fun coverage coming out. I'll be here till Thursday, which is when the game is, so you guys won't miss a moment of the action. I appreciate all the support that you guys give me. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.